Wildlife volunteer Stefan Claudio is feeding an Asiatic bear inside a wildlife sanctuary when the bear grabs his hand and refuses to let go. Stefan pulls a knife out of his pocket and begins cutting away his own arm. Hit like and subscribe. This is fierce. Volunteer work is popular across Thailand. For those seeking adventure and the chance to do some good in the world, often choose Thailand as it offers the chance to do both. Wildlife sanctuaries that are run by charities rely on donations and the selfless acts from people who volunteer their time to help out. That's how they continue to operate and look after the animals in their care. But despite being behind bars, the animals at the sanctuaries and wildlife centers are still considered wild and are still potentially very dangerous. The Asiatic black bear, also known as the moon bear or white-chested bear, due to its distinctive markings, is smaller than an American brown bear, but is still considered a deadly predator. Males can reach 200 kilograms, 440 pounds, and stand 1 meter, 39 inches tall at the shoulder. They are mostly arboreal, with strong forelimbs for climbing, but they have the unusual ability to walk on their hind legs, once recorded for more than a quarter of a mile. With their numbers in decline, mostly due to diminishing habitat, wildlife sanctuaries provide a refuge for this species, which is classified as vulnerable by the IUCN. Many are also killed for their body parts, namely their skin and their gallbladders, which are used in traditional medicine. But the species has been making a name for itself for other reasons recently. Spread across much of Asia, these bears have been attacking people more often than in the past. This species is typically shy of people, but over recent years, it seems they are becoming bolder. Pressures from human encroachment on their territories has been largely to blame, as well as climate change, which has made finding food more challenging for the bears in some regions of the world. In Japan, there were 212 bear attacks recorded in 2023 alone, and in the Indian provinces of Jammu and Kashmir, 2,357 attacks were recorded between 2000 and 2020. It appears that they are naturally more aggressive than their American or European cousins, and now even those in captivity that are used to human contact are posing a threat, as this next incident demonstrates. In 2013, an Asiatic black bear had become lost outside its natural forest in Thailand's Doi Pai Dang National Park. The wilderness extends across 1,155 square kilometers. The mountains, streams, rivers, and forests provide a haven for a plethora of wildlife. But the lone bear was posing a threat to people, as it was found wandering toward civilization. But instead of destroying the bear, it was captured and transferred to a sanctuary in Muang Gai. This is where, 11 years later, it would make the headlines across the globe for a harrowing incident involving a passionate wildlife enthusiast. An Asiatic black bear can eat huge quantities of vegetation, such as seeds, fruits, nuts, and berries, as well as invertebrates such as insects, larvae, and grubs. This requires a lot of looking after, and the sanctuary relies on volunteers to help keep the animals healthy. One such volunteer was 32-year-old Stefan Claudio from Switzerland. He had traveled to the sanctuary as a keen wildlife volunteer. It seemed like the perfect mix of adventure and worthwhile hands-on experience he was after. The country offers an incredible mix of stunning beaches, wild and rugged rainforests, and culture for what he considered to be an epic adventure. But Stefan would not return home the same man he had left as. Something was about to go horribly wrong. It was a Thursday afternoon, January 25, 2024. Stefan was given the task of feeding the black bear. It was a routine procedure. The sun was out and the heat and humidity were high. Stefan was enjoying his experience. He was a likable character and made friends with other volunteers and the permanent Thai staff at the center. But despite his experience with animals and a clear passion for wildlife conservation, Stefan made a crucial error that afternoon, one that proved life-changing. When he approached the enclosure, the bear walked toward him. Separated by a metal fence, the two of them eyed each other. Stefan had fed the bear before. It was just one of the many chores he was given each day. With the bear so close, he didn't want to open the gate and place the food inside. Instead, he reached through the fence with his right arm. He was just lowering the bowl down to the ground for the bear to tuck into when the bear pounced on his arm. It grabbed his right hand in its jaws and began tugging and pulling. He pulled back with all of his might, but the bear had him firmly in its grasp. It felt as though his arm was going to be ripped from his body. He yelled for help, but he knew he needed to act quickly. He could hear the guttural growling from the great beast as it continued to crunch down on his limb. He could smell its breath, and he could look straight into its eyes. His face was just inches from the bear's. If it somehow managed to get its claws through the fence, it could scrape his face and cause even more damage. Stefan panicked. He simply couldn't get his hand out of the bear's mouth and could feel from the intensity of the attack that the bear wasn't giving up anytime soon. He reached into his pocket, fumbling about for something that could save him. He felt his pocket knife and pulled it out. But he didn't attack the bear. He was still an animal lover at heart despite the predicament he was now in. It was too difficult to reach through the fence and hurt the bear anyway. So instead of stabbing the bear with the knife, he began to cut away his own arm. He felt it was the only way to escape, desperately cutting away at his own arm as the bear continued to maul it. Stefan thought it was the only way. He didn't think others at the sanctuary would be able to get the bear to release his hand, and he was terrified that he would bleed out before help arrived. The knife was sharp, and Stefan forced the blade back and forth to break through the rest of his arm. Bystanders had now gathered beside him, truly horrified by what they saw. Blood poured from his severed arm. He puffed and panted, half in shock and half from the pain and exertion. Someone grabbed a piece of material and tied it firmly around the upper part of his arm, making a tourniquet. It was an attempt to stop the bleeding. They needed to act fast. Not only was there a risk of Stefan bleeding out, but bacteria from the bear's saliva would now be coursing through his bloodstream. As he stood up, others wrapped the stump of his arm in cloth to protect the end of it. Stefan then calmly walked toward the exit of the sanctuary, while others watched the bear devouring the severed hand in horror. When the bear finally stopped chewing on his severed hand, Stefan was rushed to a hospital in Qingdao, where he was stabilized before being transferred to a private facility in Chiang Mai. There was hope that surgeons would try to reattach his arm, but it was in such a bad way, the success of that would seem unlikely.